All right, Newsom on direct. We're live. Let's look into this. A lot of interesting stuff happening. The Twitter feed has basically changed. Twitter feed now has a lot of engagement posts. I don't know what is happening over here. Why do we have so many engagement posts? Christopher Wray. Do I follow Christopher Wray? God has given us eternal life. No, but there's Indian food. There is a lot of pictures, fewer insights that we usually look for, and more like love stuff, which is good for the feed. More positive stuff. More Elon is trying to make the feed more positive for the people. But hey, am I opening Twitter to look at engagement feed? I think this might be again a strategy that, hey, Elon wants people to make babies, so he is trying to get people to marry, to engage, to find partners, and maybe that's a strategy. We don't know. BCG is bitter, lesson pilled. Comparison to US data center electricity demand forecast. Okay. Okay. EPRI, McKinsey, Jefferies, Goldman Sachs. All right, let's see. Ajay Mida. Okay. Amp up the bitter lessons. Why obsess about compute scarcity? My largest angel early investments. Anthropic, 11 Labs, Sesame, Mistral, Luma, Black Forest Labs, LM Arena, Open Router, Periodic Labs. Now add up their annual compute needs for the next 24 months, 1K to the best guess. Can you stop flexing on us casuals with your disgusting good angel investment track record? Lol, wait till you see Nat Friedman's K1s. This is just a brag post, come on. Few things did more damage to tech than mid-level managers misusing the Spotify org squad design blog post. Mid-level managers, and this would still make sense. Capitalism is how we take care of strangers. That's why how this whole industry just needed a little demand to get innovations and get innovative and muscular. We were all just fucking grinding and drawn for 15 years, gasping for drops of sustenance. Now people want our shit for the first time, and it's crazy. Let's fucking go. Google will buy power from what may be the first large-scale gas power plant with CCS in the US. Google has previously backed enhanced geothermal, advanced nuclear, and long-duration storage. Innovative muscular, we were all just fucking grinding and drawn for 15 years, gasping for drops of sustenance. And Duncan, power for AI, scale microgrids for youths. So what exactly it is? Yeah, they just need a demand. Key for, okay, scale microgrids, power your growth, cheaper, cleaner, more resilient on-site energy from the industry leader microgrids, distributed energy solutions. 737 million in utility cost. This is very interesting. Gasping for drops of sustenance on people we also need to start. I also just want to start muting everybody that doesn't align with our goal of the future. If somebody doesn't align with our goal, if there's no alignment, we want to make sure that we are muting the people over here. It is going to be both created and blamed for a lot of things it had little marginal impact on. In that sense, it's not like astrology. It is going to be both created and blamed for a lot of things it had a little marginal impact on. The more time I spend with Jensen and his team, the more I realize NVIDIA's org is a custom architecture, precision and genius, specifically for Jensen to accelerate his impact in the world. It simply wouldn't work for anyone else. I don't see a lot of CEOs boring his place, specifically the 60 direct reports, no one-on-ones, and criticize publicly. Trifecta. Unconventional management style is really something else. Cool photo. NVIDIA's corporate structure as the company grew early on, NVIDIA nearly drove itself out of business because of the lack of internal alignment. The strategy for its chip did not match what the market wanted, as with the NV1, or an accident chip was hamstrung by poor execution on the manufacturing side, as with the Reba 128. Cascade of technical problems that eventually doomed on an entire chip line. The story of the NV30. In all three cases, Jensen placed the failure not on external factors was creating on NVIDIA and its ability to get out of its own way. When we were a small company, we were plenty bureaucratic and plenty political. Over time, Jensen thought about how he would create an ideal organization from scratch. He realized he would choose a much flatter structure so that employees could act with more independence. Without lower performers who are unaccustomed to thinking for themselves and to acting without being told what to do. I just wanted to create a company that naturally attracts amazing people. He also has this beautiful quote, which is, I want to torture you to greatness. I want to torture you to greatness. I would not fire you. I would rather torture you to greatness. Traditional corporate pyramid with an executive suite at the top, multiple layers of middle management in the middle, and a foundation of line workers at the bottom was antithetical to fostering excellence. Instead of a pyramid, he would remake NVIDIA into something that looked more like a computer stack or a short cylinder. The first layer is the senior people. You would think that they need the least amount of management. They know what they're doing. They're experts in the field. He don't want to spend time on career coaching because majority of them had already reached the pinnacle of their careers. As a result, he rarely held one-on-one meetings with his direct reports, at least when it comes to such open-ended topics. Instead, he focused on providing them collectively with information from across the organization as well as with his own strategic guidance. This would ensure that every part of the business was aligned and allowed Jensen to manage more executives in a manner that actually added value. Stands in contrast to that of most American companies whose CEOs have only a handful of direct reports. Jensen had 40 executives on his leadership team, or the E-staff each reporting to him. Today, the number is more than 60. He has steadfastly refused to change his management philosophy, even when, for example, new board members joined NVIDIA, and recommended that he hire a chief operating officer to reduce his administrative burden.
You have 40 direct reports. At the company, 50 direct reports now. Most people say, I don't know if we have any consultants in the room, they'd say, you know what, half a dozen, maybe 10, that should be the limit. What's your philosophy of theory? Well, the people that report to the CEO should require the least amount of pampering. And so I don't think they need life advice. I don't think they need career guidance. They should be at the top of their game, incredibly good at their craft. And unless they need my personal help, they should require very little management. The more direct reports the CEO has, the less layers are in the company. It allows us to keep information fluid. It allows us to make sure that everyone is empowered by information. And our company just performs better because everybody's aligned, everybody's informed of what's going on.
This is very interesting. So he's basically saying that people need all these layers because people need all these layers because they want career advice and one-on-ones and all those kind of things. But he's like, I want my direct reports to be top of the game. They are at the pinnacle of their careers. They know what the craft is. They can figure out what the work is, what are the next steps. They can decide all of that. So I want to make sure that information is fluid, and I just want collective feedback to everybody. So this is actually really cool. Really cool. Okay. One day, 186. 5 day, 1 month. It keeps growing. Went from 109. What? In just 6 months. Just keeps growing up. Wow, they're pretty much using what Perplexity does over here. What's going well? NVIDIA reported 39.3 billion, up 78% year over year. The company expects of about 45 billion, though this excludes 8 billion of lost revenue due to US export controls on its H20 chips sold to China. Analysts believe NVIDIA is benefiting from strong AI data center demand, networking growth, and expansion of AI infrastructure. Its upcoming Q3 revenue forecast is approximately 54 billion. A major headwind: export restrictions to China are hurting sales of the S20 chip, which may delay or reduce revenue. When results are strong, stock movements can be volatile. For example, implied move around earnings has been 6 to 10% in either direction. Already starting from a high valuation, so much of the good news may be priced in. Raising price targets: Morgan Stanley affirmed its target to around 206. NVIDIA plays in the AI infrastructure wave. My take. Whoa. Okay. NVIDIA is likely one of the key leverage plays in the theme, but because many of the strengths are already well known and price, the upside may come more from execution, entering new markets, China resolution, then new surprises, growth-oriented solutions rather than defensive stance if your risk tolerance is high, which may align with your investment business background. NVIDIA makes sense. Interesting. We need to look into Chat GPT Atlas. Let's see what are the new things that people are saying about the AI browser wars. Oh my god, it's the same thing. Raison. Atlas is just ChatGPT desktop app with open AI glorified Chromium iframe inside. Poserei de grave problème de sécurité selon des spécialistes. Oh my god, you can't open the website like that. AI browser wars. Let's see. Build AI into the browser itself. The browser away entirely. Just tell ChatGPT what you want. OpenAI just fired their first shot at the AI browser. What's the best way to find interesting insights over here? Because I feel like we pretty much covered this. Curious browser. The AI browser wars are here. I've looked and booked basically the same way for more than a decade, at the point where they all have roughly the same features in the same places and are often even built around the same engine. Over the past few months and what it means for where AI goes next. Just realize what a mess they have created and setting it again a few years later. Bets on who will be the next. Still feels like Googling with extra steps. OpenAI's latest legal request is raising eyebrows. Xing Secret rows across its AI division. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Still hiring for its team tasked with achieving superintelligence, according to a report from Axios. Legacy research unit, FAIR, along with its AI product infrastructure division model, the company continues to hire workers for its newly formed superintelligence team, DBD Lab. DBD, what is DBD? DBD, what is DBD? 14.3 billion in scale AI. CEO Alexander Bank paused hiring just months later, announced that restructuring that will focus on AI-related products and infrastructure. Leaving earlier this year, AI head Wong said Meta will aim to integrate and scale many of the research ideas and projects from FAIR into the larger model runs connected by DBD Lab. Meta is reducing roles inside FAIR, and other divisions make high-profile hires for DBD Labs. What is the full form of DBD Labs? To be determined. Okay. Intentionally open-ended division, signaling that the lab's direction breakthroughs are still evolving as Meta pursues AGI or superintelligence. DBD. Okay. Okay.
Keep you logged in on the service. And the other thing I would say is the Omnibots. If you're trying to argue for, like, hey, why would I need a browser? It's all like legacy product. Just give me a chat window and I'm going to doctor it, and it's going to just do everything for me. I don't think people really understand that AI is not ready yet to completely do everything autonomously with 100% reliability. Right. So you have to actually still do a lot of tasks. Like I still wouldn't trust Comet to accurately do financial accounting for Perplexity. It's like, we have like a lot of cash, and I wouldn't trust it to go like log into Morgan Stanley, JPM. And there's a lot of, they have anyway like pretty hard systems to log into that like these things cannot be done today. So are you just gonna like go to your browser applying to do these things? Like you want like one environment where you do all your work, and that's what the browser enables for you. And the Omnibox is where you're anyway typing most of your stuff. So if I get to help you directly there, or on any web page you're on, I get to be on your site to co-browse with you. Yeah. That's very powerful, and I also get to complete tasks for you. So that's why we decided like it makes perfect sense. Like the other approach of logging you into a desktop app that's completely different UI and trying to build these streaming UIs as part of that, and like the agent is pretty janky and it doesn't actually complete the task. That's what made people like lose hope with the operator. The more native experience, only apply it on.
Bessemer. Top air predictions. The browser will become AI's control center. Perplexity offers $34.5 billion for Chrome. They're all racing to get the AI models integrated in the browser. I think even if they acquire Chrome, the most interesting thing they will do is they will build the browser from the ground up. They will just, instead of using the name Comet, they will use the name Chrome. They will just rebrand it, and I think that's the difference. That's the interesting thing that would have happened if Perplexity would have acquired Chrome, because it wouldn't make sense to take up all this technical debt that Chrome has today and all the weird integrations that they have today. The most interesting thing you could do is just use the name Chrome, use the logo Chrome. Blockbuster report by Ken Good on AI Browser Wars. App-centric computing is coming to an end as AI learns to understand human intent directly. Browsers are emerging as the ultimate front end. Arc. Oh, OpenLayer 1 blockchain purpose-built for stablecoin finance. Okay, that's a crazy handle. Natasha Malpani, the Boundless VC. We used to browse the internet soon. It'll browse for us. The AI browser wars are just beginning with Chrome, Comet, and Atlas competing for the future of work. The browser was a passive shell. You search, clicked, and navigated, but AI browsers act, infer, and execute. Most of them still run on Chromium. The difference is in memory, context, and orchestration. Memory, context, and orchestration. Arc is rebuilding the user experience, cleaner design, smart tabs, and workflows. Comet leans agentic at wrong Arc. Rebuilding the user experience, cleaner design, smart tabs, and workflows. Comet leans agentic. It reads, fills, books, and compares for you. Atlas aims to use persistent memory and API level autonomy to turn the web into a workspace. I think OpenAI is just winning in terms of product, in terms of leveraging this frontier model, actually owning the frontier model, and so it can deeply integrate with just one thing. There is no confusion about that. Oh, I have like 5 models to use. And finally, it is the integrations that it is doing. Perplexity is winning, especially Perplexity is winning with Perplexity is really winning with the ad block support. So you can pretty much get Netflix's ad supported plan, but if you use Comet, you never have to pay for it because Perplexity is just so good at removing the ads. How to execute Google to make the web a programmable layer that agents can act on safely. This is the start of the agentic web where AI systems transact across sites, compare, verify, and close the loop. Storage collapses into action. Monetization moves from master execution. The end game is negotiation. Browse, transact, and orchestrate across the internet while you oversee outcomes, not clicks. Crypto wallet companies are going to win the browser wars before any AI company makes it there.
And my point is, AI browsers is the next hot thing for the next 12, 18 months. And now this is going to be part of the dialogue. Everyone who wants to be in the discussion is in the discussion. So getting PR is a good thing. All right.
I want to stay on that last idea because that, to me, lays out. They are known for the Jira project management system.
Love Jira.
Yeah, very functional, non-flashy, I want to say, business. If you didn't understand how these things work and you looked at the product, you kind of, and it's a huge company. And OpenAI and Perplexity were also looking at the browser company. Meanwhile, the browser me wrong.
East Coast,
Yeah, so the narrative on those guys prior to this announcement was really cool product, beautiful branding, nobody uses it. And I remember reading a few months ago, people were like, what? I can't believe they're like Left 4 Dead basically. Like, oh, they built this awesome thing, no one even uses it, and now they got a pretty nice acquisition out of it. I'm curious, because that got my mind, but what are some of these other browsers that just struggle to get traction that now could be facing a much more positive fate?
There are over half a dozen companies that are doing different types of browsers, both traditional browsers and then now AI browsers. That's the big new category. The two big browser companies are Google Chrome, which has 60-70% share globally, and then Safari from Apple is the second one, right? Then the number three is like falls way down to Microsoft. They have something called Edge, which is 2 or 3% share. Then there's a company called Firefox, which we've all used for 10, 20 years. You may remember.
Yeah.
Remember them? They, Mozilla, etc. So they are actually a big beneficiary of the Google decision.
Microsoft joining the AI browser wars. DeepSeek goes to your mind. The browser wars are back. They're powered by AI. Oh my god, TechCrunch just like 2 words on this. Uncooked, it's actually a great time to build one. Even if Atlas becomes relevant in 2 weeks, it's conditioning a new behavior. Browser switching browsers is rare. Historically, 98% of users stick with one browser for years. The browser wars will normalize browser switching and weaken the status quo bias. It won't be winner take all for some time. Atlas, Comet, Dia, and the likes. Atlas, Comet, Dia. Good names though. Good names are Atlas, Comet, Dia, and the likes have great onboarding experiences and are invested in browser migration tools, one-click imports. What does it say right now to us? What are you recommending? Which results are most relevant to me and my query? Compare these results and group them as appropriate. It's a great time to build a browser. This came out 21st October. Proactive agents. These are the ones capable of predicting user intent before a request. One has figured out a reliable way to do this. Just yes, we are close. Let's see. I also just want to remove all these. It's not the politicians. It's the voters. Wow. Okay. Excited for when Brian Chesky goes on the Cheeky Pine podcast with the Coalition Bros, but he has to keep leaving to go to the bathroom every 10 minutes. Cheeky lines. The interaction skill is especially odd that Claude doesn't have the ability to time trigger task. I built the same workflow out on ChatGPT and Claude. Claude did a much better job, but since you can set it to recur, I'm going to have it to run on ChatGPT. Loan to ship. Shipping is a skill distinct from coding. Shipping is designing, coding, QAing, storytelling, teaching, marketing, selling, pivoting, iterating. It used to be that coding dominated in importance because of coding ability scarcity. AI will push you to go further. Andrew Huberman live on TVPN. Okay, ultimately there's no replacement for great ideas and there's no replacement for human energy. The best source of energy that I know is youth. You want to harness that energy of youth and the spirit of discovery and give people the resources. You get money, you give it to young people, and you get out of the way and let them try.
And eventually you get them. But ultimately there's no replacement for great ideas. And there's no replacement for human energy. And the best source of human energy that I know is youth. And so you need to catch people when they're coming out of college, not send them to work in a lab for 3 years before they might go to graduate school, then realize that they can't make a good living compared to their friends in finance. Like, you're not going to get rich doing science, although some scientists do get rich, right? I mean, Genentech was started by scientists, so they're all companies, But ultimately, you want to harness that energy of youth and the spirit of discovery and give people the resources. Now, I have wonderful mentors, and one of the most important things they taught me was you get money, you give it to young people, and you get the fuck out of the way and let them try. And then when they don't work, you guide them and you say, listen, like you're wasting your time, move on. Like, no, and they get belted. No, move on. It's a bad relationship, cut and run. And then you just start the next thing. And eventually you get hits. And then you can pile human power onto those hits. Right? I'm just describing what everyone knows to be true, but this is not the way that the system has been designed. It is old and clunky. And it doesn't need to be scraped or, hacked in half almost at 40% cut. But it does need to be revised. It really does.
Very interesting. Human energy, especially for young people, is the ultimate multiplier. You can have every resource in the world, but without curiosity, drive, and the willingness to experiment goes nowhere. Invest in youth. This is very interesting because this is exactly what so I have my French teacher has been talking about the same thing, which is why do we need babies? Why do we need babies? People are not having babies. We need babies because people will get old, and you know what happens when people get old? People get stuck into these routines. And people stop discovering, stop exploring. They are just exploiting. They are just exploit mode. They have their routines. They are not discovering. And all the culture that you know today, all the economy runs on young people buying shit, young people doing shit. They're exploring. So you do want to harness that creative energy of the young people. And if you stop doing babies, all you're left with is old people, and which means your entire culture is getting stuck in ancient history, which is very interesting. You want to harness the energy of youth and spirit discovery and give people the resources. You want to harness that energy of youth and spirit discovery. Really cool. Gwen fucking Shotwell. Pattern match for female CEOs. Who is the Zuck, Elon, Palmer that early career female founders are pattern matched against? Is there one? Lizzie Holmes, the obvious answer on the negative side. CEO Canva. Fiji Simon, Gwen Shotwell. Gwen Shotwell. I'm responsible for sales. I'm in charge of making sure there's revenue here in the company. We're working on lots of Falcon 1 deals, Falcon 9 deals, and Dragon deals. Quotes from I don't know, for some reason I'm just like Gwen fucking Shotwell. Alright, Gwen Shotwell. Basically, it's a flat organization. Anyone gets to talk to anyone, and the best idea wins, even if it comes from an intern. From my perspective, it's really risk management to ensure that humans have the ability to go somewhere else in case there were to be some huge disaster on Earth. It's really risk management to ensure that humans have the ability to go somewhere else in case there were to be some huge disaster on Earth. If you're not looking toward the future, trying to improve the current technology, you will be left behind. Trying to improve the current technology, not looking toward the future, trying to improve the current technology, you'll be left behind. I do want to make something this basic. Does have a lot of government business, but we execute in commercial fashion. You face adversity. What's most important is that first of all, you think hard about what happened, what the response is going to be, and don't be afraid to say you made a mistake if you made a mistake. How did she get hired to run SpaceX? Owing to excellent stories, not luck or PR. Mechanical engineering master's applied from Northwestern University. The Aerospace Corporation, working on military and commercial satellite projects, later joined Microcosm Inc., a small space launch company where she focused on business development. At her space industry conference where Elon Musk was presenting his early ideas for SpaceX's vision to make space travel cheaper and reusable, aligned with her long-standing frustration about the aerospace industry being too bureaucratic and slow. She thought this guy is either nuts or he's going to change the world. Musk hired her in late 2002 as vice president of business development, one of the company's first as an employee. Her job won customers for rockets that didn't exist yet. She landed crucial NASA and commercial contracts that kept SpaceX alive after several early Falcon 1 failures. She combined technical depth, could speak the language of engineers with business acumen, could close billion-dollar contracts. Known internally for being calm, diplomatic, and ruthlessly effective. The opposite of Elon's chaotic energy. By 2008, after SpaceX won its first NASA contract for $1.6 billion, she was promoted to President COO. First NASA contract for $1.6 billion. She oversees day-to-day operations, sales, and customer relations, while Elon focuses on engineering and product vision. Further transforming SpaceX by Elon's scrappy rockets shot about a sustainable, profitable aerospace company. Really cool. Really cool. Really cool. And that's how what are some interesting stories from? From Holocaust survivors to American Dream founders, one of the most powerful parts of the profile in the family history, Josh's grandparents. Now Belarus, Novogrudok, where your extreme suffering. Hideouts, labor tunnels, and escape from Nazis, where he and her siblings hid in the forest and later with partisans. Joseph and Ray arrived in the US in 1949 and built a real estate business from scratch. First Richard home mindset from Joshua grew up in a first-generation home surrounded by the impossible. It roots his ambition is something much deeper than simply making money. There's a survival, reinvention, identity, and gratitude aspect. It also helps explain his drive and perhaps his lens on risk, place, and legacy. The following an evolution of his firm Thrive Capital. Another story worth noting how Josh built Thrive and how he envisioned it differently from typical venture firms. The idea it would be stage agnostic, sector agnostic, global, and even incubate its own company's attributes that were deeply unconventional at the time. Early in the legendary head of Princeton's endowment, Future Capital. Head of Princeton's endowment, Andy Golden, told Josh that as firms scale, they often lose their identity and focus, becoming asset gatherers rather than mission-led. The piece says Golden saw more in me than I saw myself. The profile also covers how Thrive back major companies, Triumph, GitHub, and how Josh sees investing as building, not just writing checks. Why it matters. The story gives insight into what differentiates Josh's approach to investing, culture, firm building, and how his personal history may have contributed to that mindset, reinvention thinking beyond the usual roles. Personal lessons from family crisis and public scrutiny. His father, Charles Kushner, at some point was at the height of business and philanthropy, then faced a fading out with his older brother and legal troubles. The world treated us one way for the beginning part of my childhood, then suddenly they treated us very differently. That experience showed us how the world works and why you should not care too much about what people think. He held a firm all-hands meeting at Thrive where he discussed growing up, knowing people hated Jews but never having experienced it firsthand in America until then. It's not a success story. There's a diversity and public moral complexity. Shape his values, risk posture, and how he views the game of business. More about game of business. Reputation, vision, belonging. Vantage as founder, investor, Thrive Capital, and co-founder Oscar Health. Business creation rather than simply investment. One of the strongest reframes. He doesn't just view business as deploying capital, but as building companies' culture capabilities. From the article, the idea for Thrive was that it could not just invest in companies, but build them. This translated into, for him, the game isn't passive, it's active, interventionist, generative. You're already in a build-centric phase. Viewing your role as creator operator, not just capital allocator, aligns with his mindset. Unconventional structure and resisting conventional business categories. Kushner emphasizes that when he launched Thrive, he deliberately positioned it in an unusual spot: stage agnostic, geography agnostic, sector agnostic. At that moment in venture, you were either an early stage firm or a later stage firm. The idea of having a fund that could build companies, invest in them early or late, and inside or outside the US, it was just deeply unconventional. It reads, the business game has not constrained by the boxes the industry tried to force you into, take away for you. Since you explore nuclear, crypto, AI, media, treat your business as multi-axis, not pigeonholed. You have a chance to create a new category instead of fitting one. In venture, you were either an early stage firm or later stage firm. The idea of having a fund that could build companies, invest in them early or late, and inside or outside the US, it was just cheaply unconventional. Okay, I like this. Joshua Kushner, let's go. Okay. We made a quick change. All right. I don't want to mention you were either Okay, got it. Identity, intuition, and taste matter as much as metrics. Taste, intuition, gut instincts, and identity, not just spreadsheets. Johnny has said of him, some people just have innately wonderful taste and intuition. Josh's wonderful taste, I think it bleeds into his product intuition. My deepest insecurity is that I have these intuitions about things I cannot explain to anyone. In high uncertainty spaces, metrics lag. Having the taste to pick the right direction early is a competitive advantage. Lean into your intuition, advantage rather than waiting for perfect data. Business is a game of loyalty, speed, positioning, and culture. When the leadership shakeup at OpenAI happened, Thrive and Kushner reportedly paused live for 72 hours. He didn't leave his hotel room for 72 hours. He just worked non-stop, very strategically, very effectively. The people who win deals are the ones who want to win them most. Keep a business in SBU has 3 vitals: loyalty and relationships. You back founders, and they know you are there. Speed and readiness. When an opportunity or crisis hits, you don't wait. Culture and conviction. The firm's identity matters. Growth should not dilute it. Culture and conviction for you. Positioning yourself not just as cooperative founder, but as partner catalyst. Your network, speed of execution, cultural clarity becomes differentiators. The world is predictable in certain mechanics. Want to play by those rules. The world is very predictable in reference to how people treated his brother and him after 2016. He argues, and about public versus private markets, he argues public market can pull forward value and distort incentives. You're being paid arbitrarily based upon multiples which have nothing to do with the true intrinsic value of the company. The game has patterns, incentives matter, structures distort behavior, value extraction versus creation are different games. You're operating in intersections, research, media, investment, crypto. You are especially exposed to market distortions. Separate the intrinsic value creation game from the market sentimental game. Risky and avoiding the trap of asset gathering. Mentor Andy Golden. Investment firms, as they scale, start to lose a sense of their identity and wind up focusing on the size of their assets under management, leading to a lower cost of capital, less ambitious people, more mediocrity, and low returns. Always getting bigger, it's about staying true to what you do well, staying sharp. Business is not about always getting bigger, it's about staying true to what you do well, staying sharp with your ambition. Building business, staying selective. This is a good reminder, you don't chase growth for growth's sake, chase meaningful growth. Founders ahead of markets and understanding why now. Why now being critical in investing, picking problems that are ready for a change. He says to focus on what could go right versus only what could go wrong. The game is about being in the right time, solving the right problem, and doing so with conviction. Why now? You're the sweet spot. Create rather than only allocate. Refuse conventional boxes. Build a unique platform. Trust intuition and culture as much as numbers. Execute quickly and with loyalty. Plan by value creation, not hype. Avoid diluting identity in pursuit of scale. Align timing with ambition. I like this. Joshua Kushner, we can learn a lot. We can learn a lot from Joshua Kushner. The best investors shared traits of philosophers, builders, and monks. In addition to being able to synthesize huge amounts of information with a high degree of open-mindedness, investor needs to be able to convert their synthesis into yes/no decisions. They need to be comfortable with failure. Learn from their mistakes accurately. They need to have good and enough courage in them to be extremely aggressive when the obvious opportunity strikes, but humble enough to see clearly the limits of their circle of competence, to constantly worry that they might be missing something, to understand the inevitability of unknown unknowns. They need to be cautious enough to ensure survival no matter what happens, and patient enough to do nothing when the obvious opportunity is not present, which means most of the time. I'm really glad technology is now synonymous with the city of San Francisco. It used to be that you had to live in the soul-crushing suburbs of the South Bay. Silicon Valley. I spent one summer down there as an intern and considered finding a new career path. What does he exactly do, Rune? Just reads. Excellent recipe for doing great work. Don't die. Don't quit. Don't die. Don't quit. Run towards the hardest problem. Don't cheat. Be part of something greater than yourself. It's so easy to be 99% of people playing long-term games. How to keep winning. Don't die. Never quit. Lock in. Do hard things. Play by the rules. Put something back. Putting something back in the pool of human experience. He said that putting something back was extremely neat. I agree. But it's not just neat. It's not just an ethical good. It might also benefit you in the future. Karma seems real. When you put something back in the pool, your reputation will grow. People will be familiar with your work and they will want to be around you and work for you. Winning can compound by giving back. Win and give to win more later. Always liked open sourcing software, sharing my experience and talking publicly about how I'm building things, in some cases an entire roadmap. First fully generative software created on the market that's accessible to anyone. I shared the roadmap for that in its entirety in a TED Talk almost a full year before launch. Roadmap was public and it still is, but I can't remember a time when there was a disadvantage. Idea is important, but what's precious is generating function, the well from which those ideas sprang. Who are some top employees at OpenAI? With or who wrote interesting blog posts? Let's do that, and maybe I want to see what happened to the Meta Vibes app. Okay, go back. Do hard things. Most people do the obvious thing. They don't want to look weird or different, but winning is weird and different. You are definitionally different because you stand apart from everyone else as the ultimate winner. I used to be a pro gamer. When my friends and I picked up a new video game, everyone would follow the game's instructions and do the obvious thing. On the other hand, I would explore the edges of the game. I would explore every weird build, every different weapon, and frankly look like a noob for a long time. That's good. They will underestimate you, but you're compounding and eventually will go vertical, creating a massive distance between you and the next participant before they know what hit them. People by nature take the path of least resistance. If it's working, they will keep going. Doing hard things means you're going on an untrodden path. It's risky. It's risky. When I started working on Replit many years ago, venture capitalists would look at our competitors, see that they were growing faster, making substantially more progress, and they would ask us, why not just do this or that? But it was never that simple. Technological depth, something lasting. If it's easy, then there is no real lasting advantage. It's easy to create the surface thing, but the right hard infrastructure technology compounds, and building a technology company, we're often faced with the strategic decision on whether to build or buy. Every build or buy decision should be treated with care, but what's certain is that buying tech is strategically fraught, because once you run into the limits of the technology, you can fundamentally change it. But when you build, you will be able to adapt a lot faster, find ways to win on the daily events, valuable yet rare use cases that are impossible to handle with an outsourced platform. Solve the problem of collaborative coding. The easy solution was to buy any one of those services that give you an API to do collaborative editing. Instead, we took the problem one level deeper, build powerful abstraction of file system where any operation can be reversed, where it can be forked in a fraction of a second and can be easily stored and backed up. When the coding agents became possible, to quickly adapt to technology, and now we use this tech to do parallel agents. And the side effect of concurrency features, we were able to build a time travel feature that's important for reversing destructive agent actions. I was maybe in third grade, standing in line waiting to get called on to spell the next word. I looked around me, and all the other kids were talking and joking around. I thought that was strange. How could you ever win if you're not in the mindset of winning, if you're not locked in? Keep reciting difficult words. And although I was slightly dyslexic, I still won every freaking spelling bee. With the simple trick, I dominated so much to the point that my teachers, who loathed me for being a slacker, once tried to rig it in favor of their obedient A students. I still won. On a day I have to perform, it's impossible to be around. I'm in the winning mindset. If I can observe how others are doing, I will study their every move. Participate in won a timed car race. While waiting, I watch everyone's mistakes, learn from them. I went to do my trial. I knew exactly the bare minimum I needed to do to put myself in a winning position. It's all upside from there. Explore from day one and some prodigies. Play piano at 3, but those are rare, often fleeting. Most sharp rises end in sharper declines. If you've set your mind to something, then why ever quit? If you're not dead, then you are still in the game. When you talk to entrepreneurs who quit on their dreams, even when they still get massively rich without investing, through investing, there is a look of immense pain in their faces when they tell you that they timed it wrong. They were too early. Timed it wrong, they were too early. Well, we're only too early if you actually quit or died. They had all the right ideas but stopped short of striking gold. Gold is only 2 strikes away. Don't let that be you. When you consider quitting, try to find a different scoreboard. Score yourself on something else, on how many times you dust yourself off and get up, how much incremental progress you make almost always in your business or life. There are things you can make daily progress on that can make you feel like you were still winning. Start compounding. As business started off slow and just come on all the way to heaven. One of my favorite charts is Amazon growth because it's consistent over many years and it's still compounding. It's really hard to stop companies like this. It's impossible to stop founders like this. So maybe you're not winning on some external scoreboard, but you always have your internal scoreboard to measure yourself and your team on. Have patience. Don't die. Almost everything you can come back from except death. I'm using death both literally and figuratively to mean the point of no return. First, know the death boundaries and obsess over the extreme downside scenarios and prioritize survival. All the ways you could die all the time. In that way, I'm very careful, almost paranoid. 8 years with little commercial success, but at no point did we ever get to the red zone when it came to a runway. We always had plenty of cash on hand. You'd be surprised by the number of brilliant founders that reach out to me for advice when they are 3 months from death. Once you're deeply familiar with the death conditions, you can take extreme risk because you know you will always come back when things go sideways. If you are forgiving of failure, you can come back from almost anything. There were many times when the business sort of worked and any rational founder would have decided to scale it. For example, we had a decently growing business in education recruiting, but both markets felt unexciting to me. We couldn't build a big company or achieve our mission that way. So we pivoted. The most recent pivot was from being primarily a coding editor to becoming a natural language creation interface. So employees and customers were upset and left. But I knew I had to align with the biggest revolution the world has since the internet. When you eventually make it, people won't just forgive you, they will join you. How to keep winning. And the shock is so massive. Lots of examples recently agree. It will get worse before it gets better. With Musk, SpaceX to integrate Starlink service into iPhone, starting with iPhone 18 Pro next year. It went then to parody. It's better to parody than to copy. It's better to copy than to nothing. Worth reading vulgarly. Surrounding the capex boom, big tech, AI built out transforming markets, but history suggests caution. What should investors do? Because of past boom, rising capex, firms underperforming depends on the utility, finding AI early adopters, value investing in navigating hype cycles. Embarking on an epic AI data center build out with capital expenditures of $400 billion this year and trillions more on the way. Amazon, whoa, capex. Okay, Google second, Microsoft, and then Meta. They will rivals that of the railroads under the massive outlays of these past booms resulted in overcapacity pricing pressure and poor stock returns. It's not just two examples. Evidence from thousands of stocks over multiple decades show that firms aggressively growing capex systematically underperform the new utility. Turning away from asset-light model that fuel their past success, approaching that of the lower return utility sector. AI early adopters, AI infrastructure early adopters, Palantir, JP Morgan, Caterpillar, Smith Global, Healthcare, UberJ.com, Roche, ASML, Supermicro, Iron, Amazon, CoreWeave, AMD, GE, Vernova, SK Hynix, okay. Full paper. Amazing deep dive guy. One of the most common questions you will get when fundraising for venture fund is about sourcing, ultimately buying into your thesis and your access. So it makes sense that sourcing is one of the first questions. Sourcing usually comes from many different channels, and almost every VC believes their approach is better than their peers. I can't even imagine how confusing it must be for an LP who covers venture as part of a broader portfolio to figure out what's real and what's not. They get pitched by hundreds of managers a year, all claiming the same proprietary deal flow story. So I figured I would write a quick note on how I think about sourcing. Is your reputation. So when LPs ask about sourcing, I try to reframe the question. It's not where we find companies, but it's why the best founders choose to work with us once they are found. That's the real edge. It's built over years, not through a single channel or campaign. Backing Elon again and again. Billionaire franchisees. SpaceX is a boring company. The sourcing channel is no secret. They access it. And that access comes from relationships owned over decades. What's even more interesting is what happens after YC, because it's such an efficient marketplace. Every venture firm has access to the same company list It's one of the most transparent markets in venture. We all know each batch will include a handful of outliers. None of that is proprietary sourcing. The real differentiation is in how firms underwrite conviction early and actually win those deals. The trust that will get them further faster. Proprietary network is a brand that founders want to be associated with. They trust YC to be the best day one partner to help them build something valuable. If you employ the 80-20 rule, deny the request, returns before opening. Higher willpower, stronger self-mastery, deeper self-respect. I think Brian Johnson is going to start talking about self-mastery and spirituality very soon. People check their phones 150x daily and spend 4 hours, 30 minutes per day. Addiction economy, who is your invisible enemy, has hijacked your reward system. The anticipation of notification spikes, dopamine in nucleus accumbens, activating craving while reducing activity in the prefrontal cortex. Executive control, decapitulation trades your sovereignty for sedation. Resistant impulse, it's like a rep in the gym for your brain. This will strengthen the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for discipline and delayed gratification, a great first step to reclaim yourself. Taking steps to develop an AI that generates music. Okay, Vibes app. Let's see. Joint venture with funds managed by Blue Owl Capital to develop Hyperion Data Center. Cybersecurity Awareness Month. All adults avoid online scams. Empowering parents, protecting teens, Meta's approach to AI safety. Future of AI data center infrastructure. Breaking ground on a new AI optimized data center in El Paso. Your recommendations on our apps with AI and Meta. EMG wristband. Athletic Intelligence this year. Meet Oakley, Meta, Vanguard. What are the sales of Oakley, Meta, Vanguard? Let's see. $4.99. Shipping in October 25. Yes. Tell me. Okay. New feed with the Meta AI app. Launch for Meta platforms. Short videos. Browse the feed. Add music. Personalized feed. How to use it. What to watch. Drawbacks. Quality. Counter AI slop. Surreal low narrative videos. Authenticity. Saturation. Or these existing features will evolve. Current tooling may be somewhat limited. Let's channel an app. On the website of Meta AI. Whoa. What just happened? Okay. We are here. New chat. Vibes. Create. Yeah, it could become really boring if you are just looking at something. Okay, this is something new, like this is interesting. Like, it is interesting. It is like something new. Genre and nobody told me. Announced 18 September. Posted exponential growth. 2 million units early. 2 million units early 2025. Greg Brockman. Advantage of product company vision. Bridging research. Ilya. Ronnie Chatterjee. New economic analysis. Productivity and the workforce. Develop research agenda. Evaluate AI's effect on jobs. How's the new OpenAI workshop in Washington DC along with trainings demo other programming for key economic stakeholders. Fastest adopted consumer technology in history, reaching 1 million users in 5 days, 100 million users in 2 months. 28% of employed US adults who will shape whether this transformation leads to greater opportunity for all, or greater concentration of wealth and power for the few. Everyone to be on the up elevator of AI. On recent clips of scientists accelerating discovery, small business owners expanding their capacity, teachers preparing lessons faster. Imagine what's possible when these tools are in everyone's hands. Yeah, in Japan. Whoa, what is happening? Okay. Shaping human-centered AI model for the world, investing in Japan's AI infrastructure, enable future across industries, inclusive access, strategic education, shaping human-centered model,